Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into a book that's pretty legendary in the business world, Ben Horowitz's The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Right.
Now, you might hear the title and think, okay, this is strictly for CEOs, dealing with those big, scary things like layoffs, firing execs, demoting friends.
They're really tough calls.
Exactly, and it definitely covers that ground. But what we want to do today is pull out the core wisdom, the stuff that's like truly actionable for you, no matter what hard things you're facing.
Yeah, it's not just about the C-suite. The principles, they apply much more broadly.
Think of it like a survival guide, maybe, for those moments we all hit, whether you're leading a massive company, a small team, a project, or heck, just navigating your own life.
Absolutely. Horowitz uses that high-pressure startup world as a sort of crucible. But the lessons about facing adversity, making impossible choices, managing people, they're universal.
Okay, so let's jump right in. One of the first big ideas he hits you with is the struggle, with a capital S. It's not just, oh, things are tricky sometimes. It's fundamental. He says, and this line really grabbed me, every great entrepreneur, from Steve Jobs to Mark Zuckerberg, went through the struggle they did, so you are not alone.
But then he adds that crucial part.
Right. But that does not mean that you will make it. You may not make it. That is why it is the struggle. And then the struggle is where greatness comes from.
It's a powerful framing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Difficulty isn't a bug. It's a feature. It's not a sign you took a wrong turn.
It is the turn. It's the path itself.
Yeah, that feeling of being totally overwhelmed, questioning everything. Horowitz is basically saying, welcome, you're probably doing something meaningful. That's where the growth happens.
So for you listening, think about that tight feeling in your chest when you're up against something really hard.
Could be anything.
Yeah, a project that feels like climbing Everest, a difficult conversation you keep avoiding, a big personal decision that's got you tied in knots. What Horowitz suggests is that intense feeling. That's not necessarily a warning sign of failure. It might actually mean you're right where you need to be, pushing boundaries.
And the loneliness that often comes with it.
Yeah.
He normalizes that too, saying, look, even the biggest names felt this way. It doesn't make it easy, but you're not uniquely broken for feeling it.
Which ties into needing support. We'll get there. First, how do you navigate this struggle? Horowitz hammers on honesty, like radical honesty.
Yeah, the telling it like it is part, even when it's brutal.
He gives that famous example, right? The email from Mark Andreessen back at Netscape.
Oh, that one's intense. Andreessen just lays it out. Our current product is radically worse than the competition. We are now in danger of losing the entire company, and it's all server product management's fault.
Wow, just direct.
No sugarcoating there.
And Horowitz admits his first reaction wasn't, oh, thanks for the feedback.
Understandably.
But later he saw the value. That unfiltered truth, however harsh, cut through everything. It forced them to confront reality.
And that's the point, isn't it? Sometimes ambiguity is the enemy. In high-stakes situations, that kind of painful clarity might be exactly what's needed to actually fix the problem.
So the actionable insight for you isn't, start writing brutal emails to everyone.
You don't.
But it is about finding the courage to be direct and honest, giving real feedback at work, having tough talks with family or friends, even just being honest with yourself about where things stand.
It's about prioritizing clarity over immediate comfort. Delivered respectfully, of course, but clearly. Avoiding the issue often just makes it worse down the line.
Right. It's ultimately kinder in a way.
I think so. Now, tied into that honesty is how you treat people, especially when things get rough. His priorities are really clear.
People, products, profits. In that order.
Exactly. And this becomes super critical when you get to the really hard stuff like layoffs.
Ugh, yeah. Nobody wants to think about that.
But it happens. And Horowitz insists that how you handle it matters immensely. He's a very firm rule. Managers lay off their own people, not HR.
Okay, let's unpack that. Why is that distinction so important? Why the manager?
It comes down to respect and accountability. The manager has the relationship, right? They know the person's work, their contributions.
Yeah.
Having the manager deliver that news face-to-face acknowledges that relationship. It shows the company, through that manager, isn't hiding from the human impact. It's basic dignity.
Even in the worst circumstances.
Especially then. So even if you're not a manager facing layoffs, think about how you handle difficult news or transitions with colleagues or friends.
Do you face it directly, with empathy?
Yeah. Treat people how you'd want to be treated in that situation. That's the benchmark.
Oh.
It leaves a lasting impression, good or bad.
Absolutely. Okay, another really tough one. demoting a loyal friend.
Oof, yeah, that's got to be one of the hardest.
Someone who's been with you, maybe from the start, totally loyal, but the role has outgrown their skills for what's needed next.
It's gut-wrenching. But Horowitz gives some very practical advice for that conversation.
What stands out?
Be decisive. Use clear language. I have decided. Not wishy-washy stuff.
Okay, no hedging.
Right. And own the reality. Maybe even own your part in it. Perhaps you should have seen the need earlier. And critically, acknowledge their contributions loudly.
Show they're still valued.
Yes. And if possible, he suggests, maybe even soften the blow with compensation, like a raise, to underscore that value, even if the role is changing.
That's interesting. It separates the role fit from the person's worth.
Exactly. It's about adapting for the organization's future, not punishing past loyalty.
So the takeaway for you listening, this applies beyond formal demotions, right?
Totally. Think about any group you're in, work team, volunteer group, maybe even family roles. Sometimes responsibilities need to shift.
How do you have that conversation honestly but fairly?
It's that balancing act again. To be clear about the needs of the role or situation while treating the person with dignity. Transparency helps.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to something more proactive, training.
Ah, yes. Horowitz is huge on training, investing in your people's growth.
He tells that story about the good product manager, bad product manager document.
Right. It sounds almost ridiculously simple, just a clear outline of expectations.
But he was apparently shocked by how much positive impact it had. Why do you think something so basic works so well?
Clarity. It just removed all the guesswork. People knew exactly what good looked like in that role.
Gave them a target.
And a way to self-assess. Am I doing the good things or the bad things? It empowers people to improve when they know what the standard is.
So the lesson for you is pretty clear. Continuous learning is vital for yourself, for your team if you lead one, even for people you mentor informally.
Invest that time.
Mm.
Define expectations. Provide resources. Even simple clarity can unlock a lot of potential.
Makes sense. Now, about building that team, especially hiring senior people, executives.
He argues for a really structured process there.
Yeah.
Don't just wing it.
What's the structure?
First, define exactly what you need. He suggests 4 key things for an exec. Are they world-class at the function? Operationally excellent? Will they contribute strategically? And will they be a good team player?
Okay, define the target.
Then, develop specific questions designed to test those exact things. Go beyond the resume. Dig into how they think, how they operate.
That past the surface level.
Right. It's about being systematic, not just relying on gut feel, which can be misleading, especially for senior roles. You need evidence they meet your criteria.
So whether you're hiring a VP or just picking someone to lead a key project initiative.
Be crystal clear on what skills and attributes are non-negotiable for success. Then figure out how you're going to reliably assess for those things.
Makes sense. Be intentional.
Very intentional.
All right, we can't discuss the hard thing about hard things without talking about crisis management.
Definitely not. This is where some of his most vivid stories come from.
He has this concept of lead bullets, focusing only on what can kill you right now.
And that quote?
Oh, yeah. If you are going to eat shit, don't nibble.
It's blunt, but memorable.
Very. What does it really mean in practice?
It means when you're in deep trouble, identify the absolute core existential problem. The one thing that, if you don't fix it, nothing else matters.
Amen.
You attack that thing head on, decisively. No half measures, no delaying, no getting distracted by smaller fires.
He talks about the EDS crisis at Opsware, right? Where they were basically facing bankruptcy.
Yeah, like 60 days to live.
Yeah.
They had to drop everything else and pour all energy into saving that one massive, crucial account. Laser focus.
So the actionable insight seems pretty stark. When you face a major crisis, work, personal, whatever.
Find the root cause, the absolute must-fix issue.
And tackle it directly. Don't dance around it. Don't hope it goes away.
Exactly. Nibbling just prolongs the agony and might waste precious time or resources. Take the hit, deal with it, move on.
Okay. Shifting tone slightly, he also talks about personal support systems, the kinds of friends you need.
Yeah, this was a really nice insight, I thought. Very human.
What are the 2 types?
He says, you need friends who are genuinely, uncomplicatedly happy for your successes. No envy, just pure celebration.
Good cheerleaders.
Right. And then you need the friends you can call when you're at rock bottom. The 3 a.m. call kind of friends who won't judge, just support.
And he mentions Bill Campbell as someone who was both.
A rare breed. But it highlights the need for that rounded support. People who lift you up in good times and hold you up in bad times.
So the advice is really about cultivating those relationships, isn't it? Knowing who fits which role in your life and nurturing those connections.
Definitely. Think about who your cheerleaders are and who your crisis support team is. We all need both.
Another communication point he makes, the Ben said phenomenon.
Oh, yeah. How easily things get misinterpreted down the chain.
A manager says something casually, maybe just thinking aloud.
And suddenly it becomes, Ben said we have to do this, or Ben promised that. It gets distorted.
What's the fix there? Just be super careful what you say.
Pretty much. It's about being mindful of the weight your words carry, especially if you're in a leadership role. Striving for clarity, consistency, maybe even checking for understanding.
Realizing communication isn't just sending, it's also how it's received.
Exactly. Perception is reality for the person hearing it.
Okay, now a really well-known framework from the book. Peacetime CEO versus wartime CEO.
Mm-hmm. This one resonates with a lot of people.
Can you break down the basic difference?
Sure. It's about recognizing that leadership needs change depending on the environment. Are things relatively stable, growing predictably? That's peacetime.
Focus on culture, long-term strategy, empowerment.
Right. But if you're fighting for survival, facing an existential threat, market collapse, fierce competitor, that's wartime.
And the focus shifts dramatically.
Totally. Wartime CEO is about survival, making rapid, hard decisions, often with incomplete information. Culture might take a backseat to just getting through the crisis. Less consensus, more command.
He says peacetime CEO has contingency plans. Wartime CEO sometimes has to roll a hard six, like take a huge gamble.
Yeah, the tolerance for risk changes. The speed required changes. The communication style often changes, becomes much more direct, maybe even harsh.
So the actionable insight here is self-awareness and adaptability.
Know what time it is for your team, your
Yeah.
project, your company, even your own situation,
Are you in peace or war?
and adjust your style accordingly. You can't use a peacetime playbook when the building's on fire, and you probably shouldn't use a wartime approach when things are going smoothly.
Be flexible. Be situationally aware.
That's the key.
All right, nearly there. Let's talk about giving feedback. He offers some really concrete principles.
Yeah, building on that honesty theme, but with more nuance.
What are some of the key ones?
Be authentic. It has to feel real. Come from a good place. You genuinely want them to succeed.
Okay, intention matters.
Hugely. Don't make it personal. Focus on the behavior or the work, not the person's character.
Crucial distinction.
Don't criticize people publicly. That's just humiliating. Tailor your style a bit to the person receiving it. And be direct, but don't be mean about it.
Direct, but not cruel.
Right. It's a fine line sometimes, but the goal is constructive improvement, not tearing someone down.
So for you listening, think about how you give feedback and maybe how you receive it too. Are these principles in play?
It's a skill you can practice. Giving good feedback is incredibly valuable.
And finally, he touches on something we mentioned earlier, the loneliness.
Loneliness of command, yeah. Making those really hard calls, the ones where maybe there's no good action, it can feel incredibly isolating.
Knowing the buck stops with you.
Right. And that you might carry information or bear a burden that you can't fully share.
So what's the actionable thought there? Just suck it up.
Not quite. It's more about acknowledging that loneliness is part of the territory sometimes, and then building your own resilient strategies.
Like what?
Finding mentors or advisors you can talk to, even if it's not your direct team. Developing healthy coping mechanisms for stress, journaling, exercise, mindfulness, whatever works for you.
Building that internal fortitude.
And recognizing you don't have to have all the answers or bear it all alone, even if it feels that way sometimes. Seeking support is strength, not weakness.
Okay, so wrapping this up, we've gone through a lot of the hard things from the hard thing about hard things.
They have.
And while it's set in the startup world, the themes, they really do hit home, don't they?
Absolutely. The struggle, honesty, people, adaptability, feedback, resilience. These are human challenges, leadership challenges, life challenges.
So key takeaways for everyone listening.
I'd say, 1, embrace the struggle. It's often where growth lies. 2, practice radical honesty with care. 3, people first, always. 4, adapt your approach to the situation, peacetime versus wartime. 5, learn to give good, direct feedback. And 6, build your own support and resilience for the lonely moments.
That's a great summary. So here's the final thought for you to chew on. Look at the hard things you're facing right now. Big or small. Which one of these insights from Horowitz really clicked for you? What resonated most? And then the important part. What's one small, concrete thing you can actually do today based on that insight to help you navigate your hard thing?
That's where the rubber meets the road. taking the insight and making it actionable in your own life.